Phoenix heat doesn't merely strike you, it consumes you. Yet as I stood frozen in my own driveway, staring at my front door, the sweat sliding down my spine had nothing to do with the sun. It felt icy. A black so I didn't recognize that park where my car should have been, and a stranger stood in my doorway holding a document that radiated authority and threat. He wasn't hostile. If anything, he looked uncertain. "Can I help you?" he asked, as though I were the trespasser. I gestured toward the house. "That's my home," I said, my voice trembling. He glanced down at the paper, then back at me. "Not anymore," he replied quietly. "I closed on this property 10 days ago. The deed's right here." My body locked up as he raised the page. It was a standard warranty deed, and at the bottom, beside a notary stamp I didn't recognize, was my signature, except it wasn't mine. I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't listed the house. I had been 5,000 miles away. My brother hadn't borrowed my home while I was gone. He had sold it. Before I tell you what I did next to the man standing inside my living room, drop a comment and tell me, what's the one thing your family has done that you'll never forgive? I'm reading every single response. I didn't shout. I didn't try to push past Mr. Henderson. He wasn't the enemy. He was merely the blade my brother used to carve me open. He looked visibly relieved when I stepped back, then handed me a scrap of paper with an address scribbled on it. "They move your belongings," he muttered awkwardly. "Said it's in storage." I climbed into my rental car, the air conditioner blasting uselessly against the fire building in my chest. I drove 20 minutes out toward the edge of town, past strip malls and drifting dust, until I reached a row of rusted metal storage units. This wasn't climate-controlled. It was a metal coffin baking in the Arizona desert. When I lifted the door, the air that poured out wasn't just hot, it was toxic. It reeked of decaying paper and melting adhesive. The temperature inside had to be at least 120 degrees. My leather couch lay inside, ripped open along the side like it had been dragged across pavement. My television was gone. The boxes stacked in the corner held what remained of my life. I opened one labeled office. My college diploma, the one I earned while juggling 2 jobs as Derek partied on my parents' money, had warped into a bent curve. The glass shattered. But it was the next box that shattered me. "Grandma." I pulled out the photo album. The plastic sleeves had fused together from the heat. When I tried to separate them, the images tore away with the plastic. My grandmother's wedding photos. My childhood memories. The only proof I had ever been a loved child. Reduced to smeared ink and melted color. They hadn't just stolen my future home. They had burned my past to save $50 a month. That was the moment. The exact second the daughter inside me died, the part that tried to please them, rescue them, be the good girl who held the family together. She melted right there on that filthy concrete floor. I wiped the sweat from my face. I didn't call my mother to cry. I didn't call Derek to rage. I returned to the car, opened my laptop on the hood, and got to work. My family loved to brag that I was good with money whenever they needed a loan. They never cared enough to ask what I actually did for a living. They assumed I was just an elevated bookkeeper. They forgot I don't balance books. I dissect financial corpses. My name is Sabrina. I'm a forensic auditor. I track hidden assets for the federal government. Shell companies, offshore accounts, crypto tumblers. I follow money that cartels and corrupt executives try desperately to hide. And my so-called crypto genius brother had just left a trail wide enough to see from space. I tethered my phone and accessed the Maricopa County Clerk's database. 3 clicks. That's all it took. There it was, the power of attorney filing. Dated October 14th. I stared at the forged signature at the bottom, flawless in its imitation. October 14th was the same day I was presenting a fraud case in a Tokyo boardroom, 5,000 miles away. I shut the laptop. The sadness vanished, replaced by a cold, steady rhythm pulsing through my veins. They thought they were clever. They thought I was weak. They had no idea they just handed me the weapon that would destroy them. I sat in the idling rental car, keeping the AC running, and called my mother. I didn't know what I hoped for. Panic, regret, maybe even a tearful admission. I wanted to believe my parents were victims too. Cynthia answered on the second ring. "You're back," she said, irritation sharpening her voice. "I'm at the storage unit, Mom," I replied, staring at the melted block of photos on the seat beside me. My house is gone. My belongings are ruined. Tell me you didn't know. She sighed, a long, dramatic sound. Oh, stop it, Sabrina. You're exaggerating. Nothing was destroyed. We moved it. You sold my house, I said flatly. That's a felony. It was a family decision, she snapped. Though Eric needed liquidity. He has a vision. Crypto logistics. He'll be a millionaire by Christmas. He just needed seed money. Seed money. I repeated. That was my home. And you have plenty, she yelled. No husband. No kids. Almost 30, gallivanting around Japan while your brother builds a legacy. Men create empires. Women settle down. Stop being greedy. Greedy. After 5 years of monthly checks. After paying for their roof. Wanting to keep my own house made me greedy. I ended the call without a word. Then I called Derek. He answered laughing, silverware clinking in the background. He was eating. Sabrina, he boomed. Relax. I did you a favor. I sold at the top. You should thank me. You forged my name. I managed our assets, he corrected smugly. You abandoned us. Ran off to Tokyo to play executive. That house sat empty while we struggled. And there it was, the parasite's logic. Cognitive dissonance. He couldn't admit he was a thief, so he rewrote reality. In his mind, my success was stolen from him. My money was communal property I selfishly hoarded. Stealing my home became justice. Robin Hood, robbing the rich sister for the deserving brother. I didn't abandon anyone, I said coldly. I worked to pay for the house you stole. You don't need 4 bedrooms, he shouted. You're single. I have a fiancé, a future. I invested that money. When the returns hit next month, I'll send you your share. Until then, stop ruining my moment. My share, as if it were charity. Where's the money, Derek? Locked up, he said dismissively. Cold storage. You wouldn't get it. I've got to go. We're celebrating. The call disconnected. I stayed at my phone, stunned. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't remorseful. He was celebrating, sitting somewhere, enjoying a meal purchased with the value of my labor, laughing at the sister he had gutted. I glanced back at the melted photographs. Whatever sorrow had been crushing my chest dissolved on the spot, replaced by a surgical clarity so precise it felt like a blade. These people were not family. They were parasites. And parasites are not bargained with. You don't seek apologies from them. You eliminate the threat. I wiped sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. That was the final physical reaction I allowed myself. I shut my eyes for 3 seconds, drew in the stale air of the rental car, and flipped a switch in my mind. The sister disappeared. The daughter vanished. What remained was the auditor. I wasn't driving to my parents' house to scream. I wasn't pounding on Derek's apartment door. Instead, I headed to the nearest Starbucks, ordered the strongest black coffee available, and opened my laptop. They thought they were facing a broken-hearted woman. They had forgotten they were dealing with someone who dismantles cartels for the Department of Justice. I began with the property deed, pulling the digital copy from the county recorder. The notary stamp belonged to a woman named Sarah Jenkins. I ran her record, 2 prior complaints for improper notarization. Leverage. Next came the passport. I scanned my Japanese entry stamp, October 14th. Then I accessed a flight manifest from my airline loyalty account. My digital trail placed me on a bullet train to Kyoto at the exact moment my forged signature was supposedly drying on a document in Phoenix. Physics became my first witness. No one exists in 2 places simultaneously. Then I followed the money. Eric claimed it was invested, tied up, inaccessible. I used his old social security number, the one burned into my memory from co-signing his first car loan, and ran a credit sweep. The results populated instantly. He hadn't invested a single dollar. He had laundered it through sheer stupidity. The transfers were obvious, 3 enormous cash movements to a crypto exchange. He believed crypto was anonymous. He forgot that the blockchain is a public ledger, and that I have tools built to de-anonymize wallet addresses. I traced the flow. The money wasn't sitting in cold storage. It was being bled dry. Transaction 1. $92,000 to a luxury dealership in Scottsdale. A Ford F-250 Super Duty, the CEO truck. Transaction 2. $28,000 to a jeweler. A 3-carat diamond ring. That explained the fiancé. Transaction 3. $15,000 to a travel agency. First-class tickets to Cabo for 4. He was spending my house on a fantasy. Purchasing affection with my equity. I assembled everything. Flight records, passport scans, forensic accounting reports, and irrefutable proof that the power of attorney was a forgery. I compiled it into a single PDF titled Evidence of Felony Fraud, Derek Riley. I didn't print it at the hotel. I went to a professional print shop and had it bound. 4 to 5 minutes later, I walked into the 4th precinct. I bypassed the line for noise complaints and minor accidents, approached the desk sergeant, and placed the binder down. "I'm not here to file a report," I said evenly. "I'm here to deliver a completed case of grand larceny, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. Total damages exceed $800,000. He looked bored until he opened the binder. He saw the passport stamp. He saw the bank tracing. He saw the work of someone who had already done his job. He picked up the phone. 10 minutes later, I was seated in Detective Miller's office. He didn't ask whether this was a family dispute. He didn't suggest mediation. He reviewed the evidence, looked at me, and reached for his radio. "We'll need a judge's signature," he said. "But with this trail, it won't take more than an hour." I stepped back into the blinding Phoenix sunlight, holding a copy of the paperwork. It was no longer a complaint. It was a missile, and I knew exactly where to aim it. Tracking Derek was effortless. His new truck GPS was linked to the dealership account I'd uncovered in his credit report. The dealership offered a Find My Vehicle feature. For owners, offers someone who knows the owner's social security number. The Dot Pulse in downtown Scottsdale. The Sapphire Steakhouse. Of course it was. A place that dusted steaks with gold leaf and charged $50 for asparagus. A stage designed for people desperate to be seen. And my brother, the man who stole my future to finance his present, was there, celebrating. I texted Detective Miller the address. "Here's at the Sapphire. I'm going in. Wait for us," he replied. "I'll be inside," I sent back. I parked a block away. The desert heat had finally broken, leaving the evening cool and dry. I smoothed my shirt. I wasn't in a power suit, just the travel clothes I'd worn since Tokyo. Jeans, blouse, practical shoes. I didn't need ceremony. Truth doesn't require a tuxedo. Inside, cold air washed over me, scented with expensive perfume and aged beef. The lighting was dim, intimate. A piano player quietly butchered a jazz standard. Then I saw them. They occupied the best table in the room, a large circular booth at the center. Derek sat at the head, holding court in a flashy, ill-fitting new suit. Beside him was a fiancée, blonde, attractive, laughing too easily. My parents, Ronald and Cynthia, glowed with pride, younger and happier than I'd seen them in years. Wagyu beef lay marbled on their plates. The wine bottle likely cost more than my first car. They were eating my house. I crossed the dining room. My footsteps thundered in my ears, unnoticed by anyone else. They were engrossed in themselves, until I reached the table. I stopped beside Derek. He didn't see me at first. He was busy pouring wine for his fiancée. "To the future," he said, lifting his glass. "To the future," I replied. He froze. The bottle clinked against the glass. His smile flickered, then vanished. "Sabrina," he whispered. My mother's fork struck her plate. "You shouldn't be here," she snapped. "Wait in the car." "I'm not leaving," I said calmly. "I came to return something." I placed the evidence on the table. Passport stamp, bank transfers, dealership receipt, directly atop their stakes. "This proves I was in Japan when you sold my house," I said. "You forged my name. You stole the money." His fiancée stared at him. "You said you sold crypto." "She's lying," he stammered. "I'm the victim of a felony," I said. My father stood. "Leave now, or you'll be thrown out." "Try," I answered. The restaurant fell silent. I turned to see Detective Miller and 2 officers behind me. "Derek Riley," Miller said, "you're under arrest for grand larceny, wire fraud, and identity theft." The handcuffs clicked shut. Derek looked at me, terror-stricken. "Sabrina, I'm your brother." "I know," I said. "That's why it's a felony." My mother exploded, screaming, clawing at an officer, hurling accusations. When that failed, she collapsed theatrically, gasping about her heart. The crowd shifted. Moments ago, I,